Chapter 61. Sophie stared at the glittering mansion of Eglin, trying to force her legs to move. She couldn't believe it had only been 2 weeks since the day when everything fell apart. She had to make things right today. When the sun had set, Elvin made her guzzle so many elixirs and serums that she felt lightheaded as she made her way up the glittering steps. Or maybe that was nerves. Either way, she was glad she hadn't eaten anything, because there was no way she would have kept it down. Grady and Adeline walked on each side of her, and they squeezed her hands as she stumbled forward. "Remember," Grady said quietly, "all you can do is try your best." She repeated those words as Della opened the door to greet them. She looked like Della again, her piercing eyes sharp and clear, and a hint of color in her cheeks. Fitz and Bianca flanked each side of her, but Sophie didn't let herself look at them. She focused on the rainbow flecks of light on the floor, relieved she felt no reaction to them. "Thank you, Sophie," Della said, throwing her arms around her in a tight embrace. Sophie tried not to think about how frail Della felt, or how much they all were counting on her to do this, but the pressure piled on top of her anyway, especially when Bianca joined the hug. "I'm sorry, Sophie," Bianca whispered, starting to cry. "I know I've been awful, and I don't blame you if you hate me. It's just been so hard." "I know," Sophie told her. "It's okay." A tiny part of her wondered if Fitz would chime in, but he stayed silent, standing just out of reach. So she was completely surprised when he said, "You can't hear me anymore, can you?" Sophie turned to face him, staring at his chin instead of his eyes. "Were you trying to transmit?" He nodded she assumed he did because his chin wobbled up and down. "I guess that means he fixed me then." Which was a relief, but it made her sad, too. Not that she expected Fitz to be having any more secret conversations with her. "Can I, talk to you for a minute?" he asked quietly. Yeah, sure." She looked round, trying to figure out where to go. "Let's go outside." He offered her his hand, and several seconds passed before Sophie worked up the courage to take it. She pleaded with her palm not to sweat as he led her to the shade of a nearby tree. "The bruise is still there." Fitz pointed to the dark purple spot on the back of her hand, in the center, all that was left after Elvin finished treating her. Elvin had promised he'd make a balm that would get rid of it, but Sophie had a feeling it was one scar that would stay. "It doesn't hurt." She pressed it a few times until Fitz grabbed her other hand to stop her. He waited for her to meet his eyes before he said, "You've told me what you went through yesterday, and what you've been going through ever since. Well, you know, and I He dropped her hands and looked at the ground. "Gah, how do I apologize for being the hugest jerk ever?" Sophie smiled sadly. "You weren't that big of a jerk." "Yeah, I was." He walked a few steps away, kicking the grass. "I was just so angry. All I could do was scream and break things. Half my stuff is trashed now." He turned back to her, but he kept his eyes down. "But I'm so sorry, Sophie, for everything. And I wanted you to know that before you try to fix my dad, before, because if it works, I don't want you to think that's the only reason I'm saying it." His words felt warmer than the sunshine peeking through the branches. "It's okay, Fitz. I'm not mad at you. I don't think I ever was." He looked at her then, his brows scrunched together. "Why not?" She shrugged. "You thought you'd lost your dad. You had a right to freak out." But it was her turn to look away. "You really don't blame me anymore?" Fitz stepped closer. "I never really did. I was just, I don't know, I was being stupid." "Boy, is that an understatement," Alva said, making them both jump as he appeared out of thin air. "And I gotta say, Sophie, I think you're letting him off too easy. At least make him buy you a present or something." Sophie laughed as Fitz glared at his brother. "Maybe next time." "There won't be a next time," Fitz said, and the look in his eyes made Sophie's heart flutter. She'd almost forgotten what that felt like. "Yeah, well, let's hope not," Alva said, clapping Fitz on the back. "Anyway, sorry to interrupt, but the council is obviously eager to get started." Sophie sighed, wishing she could feel the same way, but there was a lot of pressure riding on this. They walked in silence back to the front door, but before Fitz followed Alvar inside, he whispered, "It's lame that we can't transmit anymore. I hope Tegan still lets me be in your telepathy session." She felt her cheeks flame. "Me too." And remember, he told her as they started up the stairs, no matter what happens now, we're still friends, right? Sophie smiled. Still friends. Whenever you're ready, Grady told Sophie as she slowly approached Alden's bed. They'd moved him back to his bedroom, and all 12 counselors had lined up against the curved walls, along with Keith, Della, Fitz, Biana, and Alvar. Tegan and Elvin were also there, in case anything went wrong and they needed either a telepath or a physician to help. But Sophie was really hoping it wouldn't come to that. It felt right this time. Maybe it was just her rushing high from melding things with Fitz and Biana, but she couldn't help feeling like something really good was about to happen. She had to trust and try. The room felt silent as she placed her hands against Alden's temples and closed her eyes. She waited until she felt calm and in control, then she took one last breath and opened her mind to Alden's. His mind was cold and thick and sharp, like swimming through a raging river filled with jagged rocks. But no matter how hard the forces battered her, nothing broke through her mental barriers this time. No crazy memories or madness, no images at all. Just cold, quiet darkness that she sank deeper into, and then deeper still, trying to feel for warmth to guide her to the nuke, like she'd done the last time. Alden, she transmitted, filling his mind with the sound of her call. It's Sophie. I'm here to help you. Please be here. Please have enough left for me to rescue you. She repeated the call over and over until his mind was nothing but a series of echoes. It didn't seem to help, but she wasn't giving up. She filled his head with happy memories, faces, places, sounds, anything she could think of. At first they were swallowed by the darkness, but the more she transmitted, the longer they lingered, and slowly they gathered around her, a safe nest of precious things. And as she concentrated on them, she felt the tiniest spark of warmth. It was far away, almost out of her reach, but she followed it through the murk, and it led her to the nuke. It was empty. Alden, she transmitted, over and over, begging him to respond. He couldn't be gone. She wouldn't give up. There had to be something else she could say, do, try. She was made for this. Her mind ran through the things Mr. Focal had told her about the way he'd designed her, and as she repeated the conversation, she realized she'd missed one crucial step: inflicting. She'd learned nothing from her one lonely inflicting session except how to endure pain. But Sylvie had sent her blasts of emotion all the time. Only problem was, she had no idea how Sylvie did what she did. But maybe her instincts knew what to do, just like when she teleported. She focused on love, the most powerful emotion of all, thinking about all the different people she cared about, her family, her friends, Iggy and Sylvie, even Sandor in all his goblin glory. She was surprised by some of the faces that filled her mind. But she loved so many people in so many different ways. And as she thought about all the things they'd done for her, a buzz of warmth and happiness and energy swelled around her mind. Just a trickle at first. But the more she fed it, the more it turned into a raging surge. She focused on the rush and imagined her concentration wrapping around the floor and shooting it into Alden's mind. Nothing happened. She concentrated harder, transmitting images of Alden's family and friends, and sending them along with the rush as she told him, people love you, Alden. People need you. Come back for them. She repeated the call over and over and over, and with each repetition the warmth rose, feeding it, fueling it. She was close. He was close. But she needed something else to push him that last little bit. Something to convince him he had to come back. And that's when she realized what was missing. I can fix Prentice. The words had barely entered Alden's mind when the warmth exploded around her in a geyser of heat and sparks, launching her consciousness up, 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 blasting away the darkness and the cold and uncovering fragments of memories that slowly started piecing themselves together. Alden, Sophie called, trying not to panic in the endless second that followed. Then Alden's weak voice transmitted, I'm back.